what type of advanced analytics and processes monitoring technologies, are utilized in cell therapy currently, and how do they contribute to improving process control and product quality? Well, before you answer, I do want to, we'll be getting to the next gen portion of this in just a second with the new innovations coming up the pike. But for right now, well, what do you think?
Well, right now, everybody is doing pretty much the same exotic stuff that we've been working with in the hospitals before, which is flow cytometry, PCR, came up a little bit, and cell counts, things like that. And we don't operate HPLCs in cell therapy or other well-established, easy to automate type of analytical equipment. There's innovation, as you said, coming along, but in general, this requires a great deal of traffic between manufacturing floor and QC laboratories on a day-to-day basis, where again we control the process of the analytics. So what that means is we really have to have this constant communication going on between manufacturing personnel and quality control people. And where the opportunity lies, how can we improve things there? As Nick mentioned a while back, right? If we can automate and even inline that operation, inline being, we, instead of taking a sample, we might get, or if a sample is taken, might get automated, and we might have like inline analytics going on within a, automation unit that performs the entire process and has maybe a sample line going out. If we could get there, that would be amazing from a time savings perspective, but also from a security of the overall process controls. So it's the way to go. That's the opportunity.
Thanks, Will. Nick, what are your thoughts on that? The types of advanced analytics and process monitoring technologies are utilized in cell therapy manufacturing. Are you in agreement with Will? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot more, I'll call it molecular-based technologies, quicker turnaround times associated with those. I mean, sequencing is becoming more important now with, I'll call it gene-edited cell therapies. So at Vittoria, we have a gene-edited cell therapy. So as part of our release criteria, we have to do, NGS or targeted NGS. And you'll see more and more of that, I think, in the space as, gene editing becomes, a more popular toolbox, not only for autologous, but obviously for allogeneic therapies where it's, it's kind of part and parcel to that process. But again, I think the inherent challenges there is, again, bringing analytics closer to manufacturing, and the turnaround times, involved in those. There are, I'll call it point of care molecular technologies out there that can give you results in hours, and in some cases even minutes. Getting them closer to the manufacturing, floor or process, I think is going to be, really important. And that's where kind of that next generation starts to, where you start to think about that, as a, what needs to happen from a next generation standpoint. But as far as what we're using today, I mean, as Will put it, we're still using, flow cytometry is a big piece of it. There's a few companies out there working on point of care flow cytometry technologies that are actually available now. And people I know are, have been using them to some extent and trying to figure out how to use them in process, but still relatively early days there as well. But there's one example of, taking one of the, I'll call it legacy analytic platforms and trying to bring it closer to the manufacturing floor.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point too. The point of care aspect of this is something we talk about pretty frequently on Cell and Gene. Early days, like you said, but certainly the future is bright for that. I do want to cover truly next gen, without being a futurist, next gen platforms that we hope to see in terms of innovation. And Will, I'd like to start with you on this. So in your professional experience and based on your extensive expertise, what are some of the truly next gen platforms that are in development, you see coming down the pike, you hope to come to fruition? Hope is not a strategy, I get it, but just want to hear your thoughts on that.
So Yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to do sequencing in real time, but the point is, so what we've seen is, I got to be a little bit careful around the NDA that I signed, but
Fair.
but there is, just as Nick said, right, there are capabilities of some of our providers to really reduce the overhead time and increase security of things like flow cytometry, right? A lot of, we do things like, PCR is really for us a good, you know, like capability to expand upon when it comes to utilizing it for different type of things, not just generating a vector genome copy number or something like that, right? But yeah, we are looking at innovation there, and we're partnering up with a couple of companies out there, and it's kind of hard for me to look into the science and technology without blowing too much open there, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So gotta be careful. Nick,
Sure.
you may be more at liberty to talk about these things.
Yeah, recognize the kind of your limitation there. I mean, I think it'd be unfair to call out one without mentioning others. So I'll try not to focus on any one existing platform. But what I would say is, I mean, what you're seeing, at least on the autologous side, is platforms that are trying to become point of care, right? I'll call it bedside, CAR T manufacturing, which, obviously, would have a number of advantages, also probably create a whole new slew of challenges. But I think there's one example of truly a next gen platform. I mean, could you manufacture these things at the point of care, at the hospital, at the clinic? Could you fully automate that? And again, I think that's the dream, right? But I think the reality is we're still a ways away, from seeing that come to fruition. At least with all the bells and whistles and boxes checked that we'd aspire to have. But I think there's a lot of room for analytics. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for analytics and analytics companies, I think, to try to maybe adapt even existing tools to better accommodate this space. I think we'll start to see more of that as this modality becomes more and more popular. And as Will mentioned earlier, I mean, we're going to see more and more clinical success here. It's one of the reasons why I was so excited to get involved in this field, is the curative potential of these therapies, and I think they're going to be a hallmark of the future of medicine. So with that and with that growth and with that concurrent excitement, I think we'll start to see analytic companies spending a little bit more on development to cater to these unique products.